Good morning, everybody. Today we're going to have a little bit of an update on hearing aids. And I guess in the last 6 months, some things have changed. Mostly, I think, in the cheap hearing aid arena, because that's where everybody's going in. If you have your advertisement, you get two or three a day, as I get for different models. That's because I've been searching the internet. What I plan to do today is essentially start off by having Charlie talk about the low cost or inexpensive hearing aids, because that's where a lot of things have been happening, new things, some good, some bad. And then I will talk a little bit about what's available in 2026 in the more expensive arena, and mention especially the exciting things that are happening in Costco. And it just happened within the last week or so. And then I will let Tony talk about his experience, because I think it's very important for us to know, if you choose one way or the other, how much time you have to invest and what's involved. And I think when I last talked to him, he was really delighted with his procedure at Costco. And so I think I like to have him share it with everybody. So with that, Charlie, are you ready?
Nobody should start this way. I started this way unintentionally. The people who sold this made a lot of money. The next item, which I'm not sure if George or I got there first, in other words, I have an Ella here and so on. From then on, I have gone backwards in some cases, as George has pointed out. You can get the much more economical ones, even more economical than Illa here, and they work fine. My whole item for being here is not, in other words, it's HA is hearing aid instead of hearing appliance or hearing aid with apps. I'm not doing the apps or the appliance. That's strictly George. So I'm ready to look at my PowerPoint, if I may. Okay, in other words, I'm going to jump back and forth. Okay, so my my title for this is Help for My Hearing Loss Budget Less than $1,000. We covered, or at least I try to cover this previously, of the budgets and so on. So my budget in this case is limited up to $1,000. I went to Forbes, if people know, and they're usually had been pretty good. And they have a 26 issue, says best and worst picks of 26. Forbes recommends blah, easy compare pricing, hearing aids recommended, biologists. Then you look at the very bottom of that, and they have a disclaimer. Just about everybody is disclaiming. Consumer Reports put out a big issue, a lot of information. They didn't do any testing. They just took the opinions of people. If you go to any of these websites where the website gives you tremendous information and they keep you hanging on, look at the very, very bottom of that web page. If they have a disclaimer, get away from that, because you'll enter in something that you will lose your money. In other words, it's not bad, but you really don't want to do that. That's what I found. In my case, the current Forbes, I have their numbers. That was Jabber GN. That was looked at that. Audion. Audion ought to be a good, interesting one, but I won't buy from them. When I picked up one of their trial situations, I only got a portion of my money back. I don't know if they're any different now than they were before. Also, Audion uh, includes a an audio person that'll help you. And previously they wanted $100 for that, so they've removed that. soundbrighthere.com, they were never this high. Ella here should be at least as high or almost up to the number one. Okay. They have a product called Beyond Pro. Delight is the new one. I've sent them back an email that says, no, I'm not going to touch the Delight for now. The MD hearing, I have no clue. Oracle number seven, everybody panned it. I mean, half their products were crap. And all the rest of these, I have one from number 12, which is what I use. And then number 13, Oticon. Why did Oticon go to the bottom? They have not done nice things for this review. My personal experience of aliexpress.com, it's the equivalent of our ebay.com, but it's an overseas website. It's in English. And the very last item that's very interesting is, what do you get if you go to the veterans admin, if you qualify, and if your hearing test says this? So they're a huge volume purchaser and distributor. So I try to pay attention to that. The advertisement, you got to realize one item, it's a world market. It's not just for us. All of these items are made overseas, and we are just another target market. We have pretty much smartphones, iPhones. The rest of the world does not have smartphones. And we also find that we have sales in the US, HSA at Walmart, Amazon, eBay, and medical office. So you can get it at a number of places, and the prices all vary and so on. Now, you go to the many websites, they also sell online, and you have to scan to the very bottom and have disclaimers of a marketplace, and they could be anywhere, and some of them really take you for a ride. I have personally personal purchases via Ella here and Audion hearing, and I also, there's a Oticon support out in Littleton, Mass, which is really great. Okay, AliExpress has a few websites. Websites info, how long they've been in biz. You can top right-hand corner, you can click on it, and you can find out who's really been there for a long time. They're probably the more reliable one. I've not shopped at Costco for HAs. I just have no reason to buy at Costco, but I still recommend all the information I have, with some of the exceptions that you find in the video, why not to shop at Costco. Okay, I have bought on AliExpress.com, not eBay, because they're only one hop from the actual Far East manufacturers. So, and so on. And the HA's hearing are mostly manufactured in Far Eastern countries. We just don't manufacture them. You get this little small item, that's where it's done. ALI Express is a B to consumers. In other words, it's the business to consumers versus Alibaba B to business marketplace. And I use the term, it's overseas. And yeah, a lot of it is in China. Okay, now I am biased toward AliExpress and also Ella here. Ella here, you think, is a United States company. Their United States sales, marketing, the manufacturing is Far East, overseas the support, and the US audiologists, very good. Make sure you have your hearing test. You can email, you get a lot of good help from that one person. Should still be there. Okay. In other words, my next item that says, I've tested and I bought from Audient Hearing. They've improved their products, and they're the ones that advertise you can, for $100 instead of the $5,000, the trial refund. You won't always get a full refund. Buy at your own leisure. I have an Oticon Ruby, one of the last replaceable charging batteries that you can replace the charging battery. Everybody else, you either send it back or if you buy overseas, a $50 battery versus just a replacement. Okay. Ella here beyond is what I have. George has it still, I hope. Then there's a thing called Delight. It's just out there now. Would you believe they don't give you a charger? They give you a little container, you put in three batteries, and you're on your own. They've cheapened the product before they're even out the door. I'm not sure about future purchases. What else have they cheapened down? They claim they use the same application software as the Beyond. I reserve doing anything yet. Okay. If you do go to AliExpress, you get the basic HAs, not the phone accessories, appliances that I call. In other words, why get a hearing aid? People buy things on an advertisement and they have problems, go back, we have hearing things, and it's sort of like you place something between the in your head, what's in your head and the ears and then the software. So it's a real issue to get the right hearing unit that you need. And there are some that are less than for $100 for a dual pair. Yeah, they really work. And I've had at least one or more. The batteries are still new or the batteries are workable. Okay. The world markets do not afford iPhones as the US market. And the HA with appliance software is not really for foreign markets. They buy and make something similar to what uh, Ella here Delight. And this is what I have in my ears now. And that is what, if you go to the Veterans Administration and you qualify, guess what? You get a Delight. And also, they give you one item. They give you a toothpick. That toothpick is your item for keeping the thing running. I don't have one, so I can't do any more. Okay. I've searched for a matching HA that improves my hearing at an affordable price. So I can do dabble with AliExpress, like for 50 to $100, I can make my choices instead of spending tremendous amount. That's why I started out and said, please, you have to have a budget. If you don't have a budget, you can look at a lot of great items, but you can't afford them. So what do you do there? Okay, so my first item here is when you start, yes, this is for people that are just starting out. Other people here already know about all this, but I'm repeating. It says, get a hearing test by a professional audiologist. And you have to have a flexible budget to get that done. And on your insurance company, you have to read the fine print and you have to tell them that it's medically necessary. So you have to be a bit flexible. I got a hearing test by a professional audiologist, so I know where I am, and I have two specific items that are on my need list. I can't do anything with the applications. In other words, my two ears are not the same. And it's how do I handle that? And then when I started out, my hearing aid problem was that the cones pop out right out of the ears. And some of the places have addressed this, some other places haven't. My other big item is if I sit next to someone like my son-in-law who speaks very softly, I can't hear them. Not all the units. The Elder Here Beyond has capabilities. They don't advertise them. The audiologist has to tell you how to set up the app so that you can hear them and you can have a huge ruckus going on in the room and you can still hear them. That's the only ones that I know of that really work. Maybe the very expensive ones work. I have no clue. So I trust my own results. There are too many websites that paper eval whatever get paid to promote. That's my personal opinion, and I'll stick to it. Now, here's they give you a user manual, uh, and in the user manual, mostly there's information about hearing dome, other, and in other words, it's sort of like the normal maintenance kind of thing. However, what do you do if you have an emergency? What do I know about as an emergency? It says know your hearing chart. You can have what they call sudden total hearing loss in one or both ears. Guess what? I had that happen to me going to bed. It was like somebody hit a mute button. The whole audio world was disconnected. I said, "Oh no, it'll be okay in the morning." I got up, said, "What's going on?" No, it did not. I had both ears totally useless. Where do you start? How do you debug that? Uh, what are your alternatives? Well, you can go to a medical, which is emergency, or you can find an ENT if you're lucky enough that they'll talk to you. It's a real crapshoot. If you're a real low cost person, you try to find an alternative. And I found to figure out whether it was in my head, my hearing aids, or what, took a little piece of paper very close to my ear, scratched it with my fingernails, which causes a very low signal level. I could hear something way in the background. At that point, I said, no, 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 I do not have this sudden total hearing loss, which people know about, at least in the emergency. So if I heard anything faintly medical, then you need what I call over-the-counter cleaning kit. The cleaning kit will have something, you've all seen these wax removal drops. You remove the cap, and before going to the medical, they say, oh, put in, two, three, four drops, or so on. Didn't work a bit. What you have to do is the equivalent of if you're going to get your house or car washed, you go get the power washer. Where do you get the power washer? That little container that says wax removal drops. Remove the cap, insert the whole bottle just into the beginning of the ear, and start to squeeze at least once or twice. You can actually, as soon as you can hear the liquid or the contents coming in and clearing out the ear, you can stop. You get a syringe with some warm water into the ear after you let what I call that power washer work, and you have a towel over your shoulder, and you clear it out. In other words, you use a syringe to get the water out several times. The alternative is emergency. If you don't go to the emergency, well, okay, it's up to you. Then you also, which I didn't include here, is what do you do if you get that hearing dome stuck in your ear and you can't get it out? That indeed is an emergency, unless you have the right tool, which I found instead of, no sharp objects within the ear passage, but just slowly, dull end, click on it, pull it out, and that's $50 saved in your pocket. So that to me was like the end of the world. I'm not a diabetic. I had no reason for uh, uh, getting both of my ears shut off. And if that helps anyone, in other words, don't be afraid to take that wax removal drop. It's a very, very small bottle, and just even one squeeze may be the equivalent of 10 drops or something. it usually will clean it out. They'll say, "Oh no, don't do that," and so on. Okay, I took uh, uh, the condition that says, "Let me try it." It worked for me. It might not work for you at that point. Yep, emergency room is the only thing that I can suggest to anyone. And over a period of 3 to 5 years, as long the typical ownership of a hearing aid, you run into that sooner or later. So that's pretty much uh, with let me see, I moved it down. Oh, yeah, some of the other items that you find out is accessories. Usually they're the hearing aid vendor websites like ear domes, wax guard, and there's a thing called an essential kit. They cornered the markets on that. You try to go to Amazon or wherever else. No luck, no luck. Then the unit that you get that goes over the ear, there's that receiver replacement kit itself. There's wires and so on, and after a while it stops working. Why? Because you bend it back and forth. Guess what? 65 to $70, and you can only get it where you bought the hearing aid. The tools that I mentioned here, if you remove any items stuck in the ear canal, well, then they also sell what they call a dry box. You can get that at eBay. Depends. Some more info, but that still goes up to $50. The last item that you have here, which is that over-the-counter cleaning kit used for emergency. You can buy that Walmart, CVS, over the counter. They have the earwax drops. Okay, and that's the content, carbamide, peroxide. And then there's another little kit. The name of the company is Clinear for earwax, ear cleaner, syringe. Those are all this OTC kit is like under $10. It's dirt cheap. Buy it, have it available. It'll save you. And if you have your hearing test, and if they mandatorily make you pay for a cleaning at the same time, you now know what it should sound like. So if you can clean on your own, you'll have a point of determining, is it my ear? Is it my hearing aid device? Or you got to remember, it's not just the hearing aid, put it in, it's guaranteed to work. If your ear inside is infected or whatever is in there, no hearing aid helps. So I think I am at the end of this. Uh, if this helps even one person, Um, and if it doesn't, well, it's a starting point. Because sooner or later, after you get a brand new hearing aid, oh, great, great, and so on, uh, well, you're faced with these. It's like buying either a used car, a new car. They come along, it's nice if you can have an audiologist that you can call up and get help. They are really the people that help you out. So that's what I have. Is there any questions or anything that can be uh, posed now so that or in other words, do you feel I've overstepped my bounds on describing some of this? I can't talk about the units that you can buy for over $2,000. In other words, they'll go 2,000 up to $10,000. And if a person doesn't know any better, they can spend a lot of money. That's what I have,
Anybody have
folks.
any questions for Charlie?
Hey, you did a good job. Charlie, you did a good job.
Yes.
But I will tell you, I have hearing aids. And the thing is, one of my good friends for years is a audiologist. She worked for a company called Whitex, and they're up from California. Now
Yep.
they're expensive, but the insurance company, I worked for the government, and the insurance program that I got, their name is on the list for being a good, reliable hearing aid company, even though they're not cheap.
You're asking the number one question that I hear from other people, which is, Are any of these reliable? It all depends. You get what you pay for, but it's not always the case. Most of these are getting to be, shall we say, they're not making jumps in technology. The hearing aid groups, I think we're going to hear from George about the smaller units, the place where the people are making money by selling in volume is overseas. The United States seems to stick with the more luxury items in this country. And if you look at your insurance company, your benefits, they will, if you want any kind of money, you will have to follow and get whatever they force upon you, which in some cases is not so great. However, you get a hold of an audiologist who is honest. Let me give you an example. There's a thing called Lexi. Have you heard that? That's from Bose.
Yeah, yeah.
Most of the people that did the work and the good stuff have all been let go.
Hmm.
Lexi product is not going any further than what you have now. On the other hand, most of these other companies, George has found, and I completely agree with him, you go to Costco, you won't spend over $2,000, but you've got to pick not what they're pushing. You got to do a little homework, and that person on the West Coast or anywhere, um, it's a crapshoot of sorts. You've got to have, it's like you buy a car and let's
Hmm.
say it's new. You've got to have a dealer that'll help you and stick with you. Um, it's, I just need to answer that other one that
Okay.
says about the AirPods. The AirPods, if you go look at, I'm trying to remember which one, people are starting to check, but they're not really an AP in other words, they're not a hearing aid as such. Some people find them, they work, some people don't. You don't know until you try. And in other words, it's a person by person situation.
Well,
I don't
they're
have any
mostly
answers.
amplifiers. The AirPods are mostly amplifiers, and if you have
Oh,
a problem with some frequencies, they amplify.
I don't have one. I don't have one, but you can share that with people. Okay, so I'm turning. Thank you for listening. It's a really crapshoot world, and then you have to find you have to ask the question, what's the right item so that when I use it, the rest of the world still sounds like the rest of the world. Not screeching, not howling. Have that audiologist, even if you have to pay them $100, if they can help you find the right one, they're well worth it.
I want to thank Charlie and make a comment about Ella here. Um, as some of you might remember, both Charlie and I purchased them. I've had Ella here now for more than a year, and I've had two experiences that I was very pleased the way they handled it. The first one was that I needed additional domes because they send you a whole series of domes and you try the one that fits best for you. The one that fit best for me, they only send one pair, and so I had to order additional ones. And for $30, they send me like 2 dozen domes, which was very nice. The other experience that I had is they suddenly stopped working. Okay. Now that's, I put the hearing aids in the charger, and in the morning I take them out. And what I found was that even though the charger said they were fully charged, the fact is they weren't, and they weren't working. And so after a few interactions with them via Zoom, they said, we got to send them in and we'll send you new ones. Well, within 10 days, they send me a brand new set. I paid for postage and I'm delighted. So I have to say that the Elahir maintenance program, the audiologist, the staff there is excellent, and they're all American. At least they don't have any foreign accents that I could detect. And even though the hearing aids are made in China, which I suspect China or somewhere there, um, they're fine. Now, that's the positive. The negative is I really find them not so very good for music, and I can hear things fine, but the music is not very good. And so I've been keeping track of what's happening in Costco. And there is a brand new hearing aid that has come out from, they're made by Phonex, but they're advertised as Sennheiser, and it's called Sennheiser Rise. And I'm looking forward. In fact, I made an appointment with Costco to get fitted with them. The reason I'm so excited about it is that they use Bluetooth Classic. Now, why is that important? Bluetooth Classic means that you can use Bluetooth with any gadget that has Bluetooth. For example, your PC, your car, whatever. And you can also connect to two simultaneously so that you don't have to keep flipping your phone or what have you to keep changing the source of the music or a conversation or what have you. And so I'm looking forward to that. And I'm not sure it's available in Waltham yet, but I have a friend in the West Coast in Santa Monica, and he just paid for his Sennheiser Rice. So I'm really excited about that. Now, what I have also is some videos. One is sort of best overall hearing aids in 2026. Now, all of these are obviously more expensive than $500. But what I think is important is that as soon as you start using AI incorporated in the hearing aid, the price will go up above $1,000. So Charlie's hearing aids than $1,000. What I'm going to be talking about are things like 1,500 up to 2,000. Now, another thing is that some of you might say, well, I'm going to go with an audiologist. Well, there are scams. In fact, there was one that I read about. A couple spent $12,000. I mean, it's almost like buying a house. And they kept pushing because he was having problems with the hearing aids, and they keep pushing different higher price models. So he ended up with $12,000. And finally, he was trying to get his money back, and then they wanted to charge him 30% handling fee. And so luckily, he went to a local television set and got one of the television people to start publicizing it, and he got his money back. But the fact is, you can $12,000 for a hearing aids. It's crazy. So anyway, let me try to give you the Costco, and I'm big on Costco. And since there's a very large fraction of people that use Costco, I think, I will just go there first. because you get the audiologist, you get your hearing aid tested, your hearing test, and they will tell you if you have a major problem, we can't fix this with a hearing aid, you need to go see a specialist. So they're very good about that. What they offer now are 4 units, actually 5. Jabra 30, which Tony's going to talk a little bit about his experience. Sennheiser, Philips 950, and Rexton. And the last one is, I forget the name of it, but for people who have a hearing loss in one ear, in other words, there's an imbalance between ears, they have a model that will help that. So with that, I would say, let me give you Tony his experience with Jabra.
Essentially, I won't just talk about Jabra. I will talk about all 4 hearing aids that I've had used to date. Okay, next slide. The first thing I want to say is, unfortunately, it's a very, very poorly structured market for seniors. You have lots of suppliers out there. Many of them don't really know their devices they are selling. And in many, many places, you're subject to very high sales pressure kind of experiences, which I found very negative. And of course, the hearing aid buyers are of all ages, but they are mostly seniors. They typically need help because younger people don't even understand what they are talking about. Even though there are some younger people that may have cochlear implants, they do have problems at a young age too. So I find that with seniors, even though we're at the point that we deserve some kind of assistance from the society we lived in and contributed for a long time, we're exploited. Okay, so essentially that is an unfortunate environment in which we're operating. That doesn't even involve some of the personally physical problems that people may experience, like some of them that Charly mentioned. I mean, what I will focus on, it's not individual problems, but essentially things that will be of general help to most people. Next slide. And in terms of my background, I'm not a medical person, but I worked with speakers and microphones and things like that for 50 years. So essentially, I can understand how a miniature device of the same thing, which is the equivalent of a PA system, is working. So essentially, on the basis of that, I thought I was a careful and intelligent buying of hearing aids. I wasn't as sensitive to the price because in most cases they were covered by insurance to the large extent. So I owned, in the 30 years that I've been using hearing aids, I owned 4 sets. And you can see a little history over here that shows, among other things, that I've been sloppy with them. The first 3, I bought them in a company called Health Innovations that was one of 2 companies allowed by the employer I was working with. If you bought it from them, it was almost free, essentially. So 3 of the units came from Health Innovations, which today has been bought by an HMO, and I'm not quite sure what happens with them anymore. The other one was the most recent one at Costco. So the 2013 unit from Health Innovations actually lasted until last year. It was the last one that survived because the 2017 set, I lost it on a Delta flight in 2018. And then I bought one in 2019. And one day I was at Costco, as I pulled my seatbelt, it somehow caught my hearing aid, it flew out of the car. I didn't know that. And then I saw it pulverized, in the parking lot when I came back. So essentially those were from high tech innovations, high Health Innovations, I'm sorry. And then when I started looking for a new set, I was no longer qualified to buy from them for a low price because I was retired. So I kind of surveyed the market. I started with my HMO, and then I knew about Costco already. Eventually, I got the job right 2026. I'm sorry, 2025 it should have been because, okay, yeah. And I've had a good experience with this. Next slide. This one really was what I wanted to emphasize, that these days, if you just go through an HMO typically and you don't have some proper insurance, the prices you pay are very high. For example, the footnote shows that the insurance that I have now, which is Medicare plus a 20% supplement, will cover up to $3,400 in hearing aid costs every 2 years. And that's really a tremendous benefit. However, I found out that there is one process in HMO, there is another one in Costco, let's say. And then there are other private small houses, maybe one-person operation, some of them in Lexington, some of them in Burlington. You probably get in many other towns. And I get barraged constantly by brochures in the mail from them. Comment for $50, whatever, a free dinner, so on. I try to avoid those because in the past, around 2013, when I interacted with some of them, I found out that they try to sell so hard, push you so hard. It's an unpleasant experience. And from one such experience that my mother-in-law had, it was terrible. And she paid $2,000 for something that was garbage. And it took her 2 years to get her money back, you know, with help that I gave her. So anyway, in HMO, I started looking this year in last year in 2025, when the 2013 set finally broke down. It was working until then, actually. Not as well, and that's why I updated every now and then, 2017 and 2019, but it was still making a difference when I was watching television. So when I went into my HMO, I found out that I would have to actually see 5 specialists in order to get a pair of hearing aids. And I didn't realize that until I saw the third one, who essentially, okay, I started with the audiologist, and that was a good experience. And then I found out that I had to see an ENT who looked into my ears, basically said, yes, the structure of your ear canal is such that you can actually have hearing aids. So by the time I said two people, and essentially I said, wow, I'm glad I'm not paying each bill. And then I was told that I wouldn't know actually anything about my device until I saw the third person. Okay, in August then, I saw another ENT. She showed me absolutely no hardware, just some brochures. She said, and I recommend this one. Why do you recommend this one? Well, because that's the best. Yes, but how many dBs is it going to give me in each band that I'm missing so much? Oh, we don't know that, but the computer will take care of it. It will give you the best. So that was not good enough for me. And the pair that she tried to sell me was $5,800, and she wouldn't even consider any of the others that were going down to about $2,800. A down payment was required at that time with sight unseen. So I went ahead and canceled the whole process. I said, this is not for me. That meant that I canceled also the next 2 appointments, which would have been, if I bought them from this person that I canceled, then the next meeting would be so that they can put them in my ear. Okay, why? Could I put them myself? And then after a month, I would go back and see another ENT who would say, are they working? well, should we modify something? And anyway, so I canceled that procedure. Okay, primarily from the price, but also by the way that I felt the system was structured to involve as many people as possible. You may say, well, that's good because you make sure every step of the way is right. But look now at the right-hand side column, which, by the way, matched almost the one that was from the Health Innovations. I went in and I saw a technician for the audiogram. The technician and the computer there evaluated my needs instantaneously. The computer instantaneously. She kind of talked to me a lot, and then she talked to me about options. They had 4 different units over there. She told me about the price ranges, and then she recommended, I would say it was the not the cheapest, but if we call them 1, 2, 3, 4, the most expensive. She recommended the number 3. Eventually, I got number 4 because it was going to cost $1,700, and I was covered up to $3,400, and that sounded as having most of the features that appeal to a techie like me that knew about PA systems in the past. So, so the device was really selected at that time. Even though she showed me hardware, they were not for sale that day. They were there as demos for people to see when they were deciding what to get. So it took until October 21st from the 2nd to actually order my pair and pick it up. And she put it in my ears, essentially the same person. And she adjusted a few things because my 2 ears are slightly different. So she worked on each one individually, basically, until I was giving her feedback, that's good, and so on. And so I got the devices, and then I had an adjustment period, an adjustment period, and then an appointment, another month, no, 2 weeks later or so. And they were working fine, but I went there, I reported nothing wrong, and said, okay, come back anytime that you find something wrong. And that was kind of the same process that I had with Health Innovations in the past. And that's what I would recommend right out to everybody else who is insured, so that they don't worry about the 50 to 100, 200 type system, which I think come with their own problems. That's one of the ones that my mother-in-law bought, and it was no good, basically. And so if you're covered, I would go the Jabra, not the Jabra, but the Costco way, because the most important thing also was that the person did not hard sell on me, as opposed to on the left-hand side, where I think the objective was to, hey, he's coming up to 3,400. Why not see if we can get something more? And
Tony, is it true that
that's a speculation, okay? There is no proof for that, but that was my gut.
Tony, I read that in Costco, they're not on commission. Is that true?
That's not on commission. And by the way, I should mention that there's a $65 fee to become a Costco member. But that's the noise when you consider everything else. Now, what was your question again? Sorry.
That they're not on commission.
They're not on commission.
So that there's
Yes.
no incentive for the person in front of you.
Yes.
Overall, there's an incentive because they're going to do good work, but there's no specific incentive.
Yes.
When you
And-
go to a very high markup, like $5,800, there's a huge profit in that for the person selling it to you.
And I don't know who gets it. I think
The
it
person
was,
selling it, well, no, the
further
person
up.
selling it to you gets a big commission.
I don't know who gets the commission, but I agree 100% that the markup is huge, unacceptable, unethical, call it whatever.
It
you want.
appears that, with the exception of Costco, it's disordered in the sense that if you're buying a car, first you speak to your mechanic. Now, your mechanic has no vested interest in anything. First, they'll start out, well, they're all lousy, but, and then they'll say, this is this and this is that. And the mechanic might ask you, What do you use it for? You say, I only drive locally, or I have to drive to work 30 miles a day, or whatever they say. And they'll give you the things that work in that sense. But I'm small. It doesn't matter how good a BMW is. I can't reach the pedals. So I have to take it for a test drive. And I'll end up with a Japanese or a Korean car, because those are small people. They're made for me. They make them for me personally, because they're small people. So the orderly purchasing process requires people who are divorced from the profit component, like your mechanic, who can tell you about the different items. Now, the limitation, which it doesn't seem like much one at Costco, is they have, 4 brands, 5 brands, and that's it.
Yeah.
So they have to be able to fit you in those slots.
Yeah.
But if they have the range, that's fine. If they don't have the range, it won't work.
And the range is not very big, by the way.
Yeah.
You don't have a $200 unit over there. They're
I was
all
thinking
about
capability ranges, more capability.
There's a pretty extensive process that goes into selecting those 5
Yes.
models that they're going to choose too.
Yeah.
They apply criteria based on their, customer base. And I find they generally do a decent job of that, picking good products out of the market, making sure that the things they pick will be supportable.
Right.
Stuff like that, because they have to take, Costco has a very liberal return policy. I don't know exactly how it would apply in this case.
The 2-year guarantee on both devices, I can bring them back anytime.
Yeah, but the other thing about Costco returns, you literally walk in and hand it to them, and you're like done in about 10 seconds, and that's it.
Well,
No
by the way,
paperwork.
the only thing I want to mention, I won't call it negative or something. You see the two dates, first dates in both cases, June of 2025 and October 2025, it should be. I made those appointments on the same day. Costco has a longer lead. You have to wait longer to get your first audiologist. That's the only problem that I found with it. And then I was glad that I made it at the same time, because when I finally canceled the left-hand side process, the date had moved to December. And I was lucky that I had the October 2nd. So that's the only thing one should be prepared, that they have a little, or at least this was in Malta. Maybe the one in Somerville has a better waiting period. I'm not sure, but that was the only thing I found negative in the experience.
Do you get as an acoustical engineer, do you get technical information from these companies? Say, this is our digitation rate, this is, our frequency rate, this is what it is.
No,
You
for
don't get the
example,
specs. Can you get the specs?
you can get some specs, yes. But what I was looking specifically was, here is my audiogram.
Yeah.
I'm crapping out at high frequencies. How much is it going to raise it, swing it upwards towards the flat line? Nobody can tell me that.
Well, it doesn't do that. It shifts it. It doesn't, you can't change the line. You can only shift the tone.
Well, I mean,
They create an illusion of hearing.
You amplify each frequency individually, and she was.
How much amplification can you get? I see what you mean.
Yeah.
How could you add? Here's your curve, and where's your second curve going?
Yes,
Tony,
Yes.
my experience is with Costco is when I bring him an audiogram where they do one and then fit them with the hearing aids, they show me exactly how much amplification and how close is the hearing aids representing normal hearing versus what the audiogram. In other words, they go sometimes not each frequency, but like every decade. And so you can see how improved the hearing is when it goes with the hearing aid.
Yeah,
You know
I'm
what I
glad to hear that, but I asked that specific question back in October when I got my unit, and at that time it wasn't available. In the HMO side, they told me that if I bought it from them, they would take a second test where they would put a probe in each one of the ears to find out what the probe hears with the hearing aid, then remove the hearing aid and then put the probe again and measure that, and therefore have an A-B comparison.
Wouldn't you just do a test again? You put the earphones on and you hear the beep and you press the button. See,
Well,
well, let's do an
yes,
audiogram
but
with the
that's-
hearing aids in and see how the curve has changed.
These days, they don't want to do a hearing test. I mean, that's money that would be lost. They have to pay the technician the second time, that sort of thing. So that could have been a way of doing it again, okay? Because if
Then
you
get-
don't have the cups, namely in some of these audio
And the
booths,
booth, in the booth.
they have speakers. If they
Oh.
have cups, then it's no good because if you have in
It's
the
11
canal
o'clock.
devices, they'll be able to hear the difference. But if it's behind the ears, they will interfere. They will cover the hearing aid, and therefore you cannot have a fair A/B test. But because they said they would put a tiny probe, it's like a hair light, a wire into the ear, then put the hearing aids above it, play music. The hearing probe would hear what I heard through the hearing aid and record it. Then remove the hearing aid and do the same test without the plugs, essentially, and hear the new volume, and therefore give me the measured difference. That would be great.
Well, that's what they deliver. That's not what you hear.
That's sound
what they
pressure level
deliver.
inside your ear. But then that's upstream of the transducer of your ear, right? I mean,
No,
No,
it's inside, it's
No, but-
next to the eardrum.
but right next to the eardrum, then the next big important thing is what's the sensitivity of your eardrum to different
Right,
frequencies?
it's it's what they deliver, not what you hear. See, if you do an audiometry test, arguing for the audiometry test, now it's what you hear because you have to press that button.
No, I understand that, and I'm saying that would be a fair thing to do, but they would not do that.
Do they do it in a booth so that you don't have to hear the whole world?
Yes, but in the past, I have seen booths where they have
So
cups.
Yeah, you still put the
around
cups
your
on,
ear.
yes, but
And
the
some other
booth
booths
gets rid of the
that they
external
have
noise.
enough of speakers so that you don't have any cups over.
Well, the advantage of the cups is it tests one ear at a time.
There were a couple of slides that I was going to use, but those are not so much so that I can advertise the apps that come with an iPhone, but just to show you that essentially the capabilities of this particular set that I got, which if you look at the two pictures on the left side, it shows you that it has one line. As you slide it, the blue dot from right to left, you increase the volume on both ears at the same time, on both devices. To the right of that bar that the blue dot is on, there is kind of a little icon that if you click it, it splits that in two lines. And then it means that you can adjust the volume of each individual ear. But when you do that, what you're doing is you're pushing all frequencies up or down. You're not adjusting individual frequencies. It's just the volume in each ear. Next slide, another feature. Now, when you have your devices delivered or you use them every day, they're set at some level. And I put a flat level on the left-hand side. It represents three frequencies: bass, middle, and treble. That would be on your stereo. You can go and move these by pushing your finger up and down after touching the dot. You can push them up and down. And again, this happens to both ears. You cannot do it individually for each ear. Okay, so you have some frequency adjustment, which I do quite often because sometimes I find in the restaurants better to have one profile than another profile. Wind days. Well, for wind noise and noise reduction, you have the bottom two sliders, and we can go to the next slide now. One of them will show you that, again, look at the lower dot, which is at the reference point. You can slide it right and left, and you'll get some kind of wind noise reduction. Again, for both ears at the same time. Okay, this is for wind noise reduction. And the next one is for general noise reduction, such as in a restaurant. Say, again, you can see that I changed the upper dot from right to left, and that make some adjustments that you may find it more pleasant or less pleasant. And that sort of thing in the past used to be implemented as a second button on the behind the ear devices and you could choose program 1, program 2, or program 3. Now you have much more fine tuning if you have the app, but in most cases, people will not use it because it becomes too complicated, So, but it's available for those that would like to do it. So that's it. Oh, no, one more. And finally, I said, my present wish list is that eventually we'll have a little more control. Instead of these 3-band controls that we have for frequencies. I'm sure everybody's familiar with the old style equalizers that we could use push things up and down to get more treble or bass, but in a much more fine tuning, more frequency. So I hope that since every audiogram has 7 bands that they test us in, we should have 7 dots on the left-hand slide eventually. That's it. Thank you.
7 dots and a PhD in acoustic engineering.
No.
Well, the issue really is there are some people who like to tinker with their iPhone or their device. There are others who put on the hearing aids and in the morning and then take them off at night, and they really don't want to be bothered by tinkering. And some hearing aids make it easy to do that. Some don't. So I think that's another thing that one has to look at when you purchase a hearing aid. How much tinkering do you want to be able to do? Because if you don't want to be tinkering, then there's a device that you don't have to pay extra money for the tinkering ability, if you know what I mean. So the last part of today, what I like to do is go to my slides as a video. There are 2 videos. One is 30 minutes, which we can run. The other one is an hour, and I will not run it, but I will give the URL so people who want to do it. The one with the hour is the latest update 2026 best Costco hearing aids. So if you're interested in one of the 4 categories, that's the video you should listen to.
Over the last year, I've tried over 50 different pairs of hearing aids. The least expensive was around $99. And then I went all the way up to the latest AI-powered prescription technology. I've tried devices from all the major brands, but I've also tested them out in the real world, spending time with my wife, my daughter, in work situations. And I've kept notes throughout the year of my experiences in these various products, ranging from OTC devices to prescription devices. And typically, once or twice a year, I'll try to come out with a full video on the best hearing aids across categories. So whether you're looking for OTC or you're looking for prescription or you don't even know the difference, hopefully by the end of this video, you'll have some pretty good insights on which brands stand out, some of my personal experiences, little things I've noticed about each one, and perhaps enough to get yourself started with a short list that you can then compare and contrast over at Soundly.com. If we haven't yet met, my name is Blake Cadwell. I'm the co-founder at Soundly.com. We're one of the leading destinations for hearing health research and shopping in the United States. You can head over to the site at any time and test your hearing for free. You can also compare different products side by side. Or if you're not really sure what you're looking at and you just want to talk to someone, you can always give us a call at 1-833-SOUNDLY. You'll see that number listed at the top of the site. If you like what you see in this video, we'd appreciate it if you give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. It helps our videos reach more people. With that, let's dig into the best hearing aids for 2026. Okay, let's get started. And before we talk about specific brands, let me give you a little bit of the lay of the land in the world of hearing health. So you can think of the world of hearing health as split up into 2 categories of brands and devices. The first is the prescription category. This is where most people end up. They'll go to a local clinic, They'll get a pair of prescription hearing aids like the one that I'm wearing now. Typically, for most people, this will be a behind-the-ear style hearing aid, but there are other types of hearing aids out there, and those devices will be programmed by a professional in your local office. Now, if you do go over to soundly.com and you're looking at a particular prescription device, you can hit request appointment and we'll help connect you with a local clinic that carries that particular product. We'll talk more about that process in just a second. The second broad category of hearing aids are over-the-counter devices. So these are hearing aids that you can purchase online. We have most of the leading brands available at soundly.com. They ship to your home with 2-day free shipping. You typically have generous return timeframes, like 100 days for most of the brands we carry. And then you set up the devices yourself, typically using a smartphone app. Now, depending on the brand, and we'll talk about a few different examples in a moment, you get differing levels of remote service. Everyone who purchases at soundly.com does get an audiology setup call. But for the most part, you can think of this as home delivery and just a little bit more DIY than going into the clinic. There's one other really important difference between prescription and over-the-counter devices. And this is one of the reasons that we keep these in separate categories for videos like this. And that is that over-the-counter devices are only appropriate for those who have mild to moderate hearing loss. The FDA actually caps the amount of sound output that is allowed through an over-the-counter device. So if you have severe or profound hearing loss, they simply won't be able to achieve the volume that you'll need to get additional clarity. So it's possible that you already have a hearing test and you know your level of hearing loss, but if not, you can head over to soundly.com, take our free test, and we'll give you a chart that will show you the general severity of your loss. So if your chart looks something like this, you could be a good fit for over-the-counter devices, but if your chart looks something more like this, then you'll need to access prescription care at a local clinic. Again, we'll talk lots more about that process in just a moment. Okay, so that is the lay of the land, and we're going to follow the same structure in this video. We'll first talk about over-the-counter devices, then we'll move on to prescription devices, and you'll have a good sense for how the overall market is shaping up for 2026. Feel free to skip around in this video and also take a look at our other videos where we go more in depth on each product and various topics related to hearing health. Okay, so let's dig into the over-the-counter category. We've got 4 brands that we're really watching this year. We expect to be the winners in 2026. These are the brands we typically recommend to folks when they come over and talk to us at soundly.com. The first is Sennheiser All Day Clear. This was our best-selling over-the-counter hearing aid in 2025. We fit thousands of customers with this product. It's a Bluetooth hearing aid, rechargeable, has 20 hours of battery life on each individual charge. The Bluetooth connection is really seamless with both iPhones and Androids. It has that behind the ear format that I was talking about, which tends to be really comfortable in most people's ears and also gives really good sound quality in complex situations. Now, interestingly, Sennheiser All Day Clear is manufactured by Sonova, which is the largest maker of hearing aids globally in the prescription market. So you essentially have Sennheiser coming off the same factory line as some of the leading prescription devices, which we'll be talking about momentarily. That's one of the reasons we love this product. It's very durable, has great sound quality, and generally we find our customers are really happy with this product. So if you're looking for kind of an overall well-rounded, good value product, Sennheiser is a good one to look at. A product that a lot of people will compare to Sennheiser hearing aids over at soundly.com is Jabra Enhanced Select. So this product has the same form factor. It's actually just a little bit smaller. It's a rechargeable device, sits behind the ear, speaker plays sound down into the ear. It's a little bit more expensive. Sennheiser typically is around $1,000 for a pair of hearing aids. Jabra Enhanced Select is typically around $2,000. One of the reasons for that delta in price is that with Sennheiser, the product is shipped to your home. We will get on an audiology setup call with you, but you're the one pushing the buttons. So you actually have a smartphone app, you're taking a test, you're programming the devices yourself. We can walk you through that process, but you're the one making the changes. Now with Jabra, it's a little bit different. You order the product the same way. We ship it to your home, but then an audiologist can actually log into the hearing aids and make changes remotely to these devices. So Jabra Enhanced Select somewhat splits the difference between a prescription experience that you would expect in local clinic and an over-the-counter delivery method. Comes to your home, can be a little bit more convenient, and can be a bit more cost-effective. So people will often think about Sennheiser or think about Jabra. That's where we tend to find that folks are gravitating if they're open to the receiver in canal or behind the ear format that we talked about. Now, we also talked to a meaningful number of folks that are not interested in that behind the ear format. They're not interested in something that sits behind their ear. Maybe that's because they wear a hard hat, or they simply don't want it to be visible, or they have some other reason that they don't prefer that style. So we have a couple of styles in the over-the-counter market that are a good fit for those folks. The first is the Nuance Audio glasses. Now, these were new in 2025, and they're one of the most interesting products on the market. They have an open ear speaker that plays sound directly down into your ear canal. So as I turn my head, I'm actually hearing whatever I'm looking at. So an array of microphones is reaching out and grabbing what I'm looking at and sending it back as sort of a boost down into my ears. When you purchase this product from Soundly, it comes with transition lenses, so it functions as a pair of sunglasses, but you can take the device to your optometrist and swap the lenses out for prescription lenses as well, if that's your preference. The glasses are rechargeable. They come in a few different colors and a few different styles. You can check all of that out at soundly.com and compare the different models and styles. I wasn't sure what to expect with this product as we brought it to folks at soundly.com, but we've had a lot of folks who've been really excited about it and have found it's extremely beneficial, especially in background noise situations where they just need that extra boost. People also just love that it keeps their ear canal open so they don't have to have something inside of their ear canals, which can be one of the challenges of getting used to hearing aids. The other alternative form factor to look at in the OTC category is an invisible in-ear style. So if I take this device out, I can swap it out for this tiny little invisible hearing aid from Eargo. This is the Eargo 8. I put it in my ear canal and turn to the side. Basically, no one's going to know that I'm wearing a hearing aid. It goes all the way into the shadow of my ear canal. So this is a very discreet option. Comes from this company Eargo, which is not one of the largest manufacturers in the industry, but they have been around for over 10 years. They have a lot of stability in their products. This is, as the name would indicate, Eargo 8, the 8th generation of the product. They've been doing this for a very long time. And their overall engineering and their ability to compact so many features into such a tiny device is really impressive. Now, one thing to note with both Eargo and Nuance Audio is that these are not Bluetooth streaming devices. So if you want a device where you can listen to podcasts or take phone calls, you'll want to go with a receiver and canal device, at least in the OTC category. This is just too small to actually get a consistent Bluetooth signal, so they simply don't interact with Bluetooth at all. So as I mentioned earlier, we do have an in-depth over-the-counter hearing aid video dedicated to just this topic. If you know you want to go with OTC hearing aids, you can check that out somewhere up here. Talk about a few other options in the market and some more details on each of these brands. But for now, let's switch gears. We'll talk about the prescription devices that are really standing out to us in 2026. Now, the prescription hearing aid world is interesting. You essentially have 6 very mature manufacturers that are available at most local clinics, and the features between these manufacturers tend to blend together. So if you were to put them side by side at soundly.com and compare the Soundly scorecards, a lot of the features look similar, and that's because they're all watching each other. They make adjustments to their R&D strategy based on what other folks are doing in the category. That's innovation at work. But this dynamic and the general quality of each of these companies makes it difficult to truly power rank these devices. Sometimes it's simply best to go with the device that your local care provider is most comfortable with because they'll know how to get the most out of it. It's one of the reasons that we suggest using soundly.com as a way to get in touch with a local clinic. You also get benefits like a 60-day return policy, better pricing in many cases, and ongoing care from our team. But we can make sure that we pair you with a clinic that has a lot of experience with the brand that you're interested in. With all that said, we're going to talk through each of the major manufacturers. I'll talk you through some of the highlights from my own reviews of their products, as well as some wayfinding around which product models we think are particularly interesting. And then we'll wrap this section up with a few final thoughts on how to think about the prescription landscape in general. All right, the first product we're going to talk about is Relate. It is our private label hearing aid available through Soundly and available through some other memberships. Relate is a full function prescription hearing aid, customized in a local clinic by a hearing care professional. Relate has lots of different customization options and some really advanced sound management features. It's also rechargeable, has Bluetooth connection to both iPhones and Android using Bluetooth Classic, which is currently our favorite style of Bluetooth connections because it's the easiest to manage. And importantly, you get all of this at a much more affordable price. The national average for hearing aid costs can range from $5,000 to maybe $8,000 for a pair. And if you go to soundly.com, you can get Relate hearing aids for under $2,000, or if you go to the very premium technology level, Relate hearing aids are around $3,000. Now, the reason for this is that it is a private label hearing aid. It comes from Sonova, the same hearing aid manufacturer that makes Sennheiser hearing aids. So the largest manufacturer in the world. When someone starts a conversation with us and they simply want our opinion on which prescription hearing aid gives them the best value, we almost always point to Relate. So that's one brand to take a closer look at over at soundly.com. Again, you can click request an appointment. We'll refer you to a local clinic. And from there, you'll get tested and fitted with this product. And then, of course, you can interact with our team ongoing as you have questions or you need further support. We're still here for you along the way. Now, the same process and perks are true as we move to the branded category. So instead of a private label with Relate, we're talking about the brands that you would probably interact with at a local clinic. So the first one to talk about is Oticon. Oticon is one of the largest brands for prescription hearing aids in the world. This last year, I spent time in Oticon Intent, which is their receiver and canal flagship. Again, it has the same form factor that you're probably familiar with seeing by now. These are excellent hearing aids. One of the things that Oticon added with these hearing aids is that they have 4 different sensors on board that are tracking all different types of movement in your body and the soundscape that you're in order to focus the microphone in the right place. It's some really compelling data on how this is helping customers, and we've heard really, really good things about the Oticon Intent. The other product that's been making a lot of news for Oticon is Oticon Zeal. It is their brand new in-ear product. So we talked about Eargo in the world of over-the-counter hearing aids, but in the prescription market, there have been very few in-ear instant fit devices and certainly very few that allow Bluetooth streaming. And Oticon Zeal promises to do all of that. It's just rolling out now in early 2026. I have not yet done a full in-depth review of Oticon Zeal. That will come out on this channel later this year. But Oticon Zeal promises to be a Bluetooth streaming device that's basically invisible in your ear canal and has the ability to be fit by a local audiologist. So prescription grade. That's a powerful combination. We expect a lot of people are going to be very excited about this product. Definitely belongs on your short list as you head into this year. Okay, so that's Oticon. The next big hearing aid brand in the prescription market is Phonak. This is the flagship brand from Sonova, which we've already talked about a couple of times today, the makers of Sennheiser and Relate. Now, this last year, I spent quite a bit of time in the Phonak Sphere product. This is their flagship. It's built with an AI chip, a dedicated AI chip inside that's specifically focused on cleaning up sound and background noise and bringing you clearer focus. When I spend time in spheric mode, I find that it's actually pretty shocking. It's dropping away background noise to nearly a dramatic level. So much so that I really enjoyed wearing it, but I found I was moving out of spheric mode just to have a bit more of a natural experience. Now, the time that I spent in this product was actually before a firmware update that they rolled out in late 2025, which improved their auto sense capabilities and their AI handling and also improved their battery life. So this is a really strong product. I also think it's very unique that Phonak put an excellent product out in the market and then they followed it with a firmware update that a lot of clinics were able to offer for free or for a very low fee. It's great to see a manufacturer pushing a firmware update that effectively gives their current customers new and extra value. There's little doubt that Phonak hearing aids are at the top of the class when it comes to prescription devices. They're using some of the most cutting edge AI. They have excellent Bluetooth streaming connection, similar to Relate and Sennheiser. They use Bluetooth Classic. And just in general, they're comfortable, well-built devices. You can also get a lot of this same technology in a custom molded in-ear device. So differently than Oticon, Phonak doesn't have an instant fit hearing aid option, but they do have custom molded devices that you can get in various sizes. You can see more about this over at soundly.com. Next up is Resound. Resound was actually the first prescription hearing aid that I ever wore, so I always have a soft spot for this brand. And the last year, they've done a lot to push their product lines forward. So their current flagship is called Resound Vivia, and the biggest innovations that they put out with Vivia all revolve around artificial intelligence. Somewhat similar to Phonak's story. They're trying to use a second chip dedicated to artificial intelligence to clean up background noise and clarify speech. And similar to the Phonak experience, I find that when I go into this AI mode, it dramatically impacts the amount of background noise that I'm hearing. It's a very comfortable and very clarifying experience. Again, can verge on being a little bit unnatural if I'm trying to stay in that mode all day long. What I've landed on is that I'm using this as an effective tool in tough background noise situations. So for example, if I'm swinging my daughter at the park, that's one of the toughest situations for me because there's a lot of background noise and she's moving away from me and coming back to me. The Vivia is a great product for a situation like that. I'll throw it into the AI mode and I'm hearing with a lot more clarity her voice so I can continue my conversation with her. This is an excellent product. The other thing to call out about Vivia is that it is probably the smallest receiver and canal device on the market, and somehow they've been able to maintain a 30-hour battery life on a single charge. It's an impressive combo. You have a tiny form factor and a long battery life, plus all of this extra power and AI capability. So really excellent product. Definitely highly recommend you check out Resound Vivia. The next two products are the Widex Allure and the Signia Pure Charge and Go. The reason I'm talking about these two products together is that they're actually sister products. They both come from the same manufacturer, WS Audiology, but they have different philosophies. I would say Signia stands out as an all-around workhorse. I love the charger. The form factor is pretty small and discreet, and they have some really nice ways of handling background noise. Widex often appeals to more of a specialty crowd that wants less sound processing. So often musicians will really enjoy Widex, and that's because it has incredibly fast sound processing. So the duration between when a sound occurs and it gets through your devices and back into your ears is much shorter than the average hearing aid. It's milliseconds for all devices, but these are especially quick. So if you're a musician or you care a lot about high fidelity, Widex can be a good option. Another pair of really well-rounded prescription devices that you might find at a local clinic, and you can certainly compare more over at soundly.com. All right, and then last but definitely not least, the Starkey Omega AI hearing aids are one of the ones that really surprised me this year. I spent some time in their Omega AI devices, and I found that some of the smart features that they built into these devices, like the Smart Assistant, the fitness tracking, fall detection, even a balance assessment, they really start to blur the line between a health tracking device and a hearing aid. And the sound quality in these devices is really good as well. They're using a lot of artificial intelligence, just like Resound and Phonak, to clean up outside world sound and make it clearer even in the toughest background noise settings. So Starkey is definitely one that I have my eye on for this year. It's a rechargeable device, allows for Bluetooth streaming. You can check out our full review on Starkey. The other thing to note is that if you're looking for a custom-made in-ear device, so one that's molded just to your ears, Starkey is a great brand to take a closer look at. They're often considered to be the market leaders when it comes to custom molded devices. So they often have the smallest devices. They're really good at the process of manufacturing a custom mold. And some of their devices, even at the smallest levels, actually have wireless connection, which is, as we've mentioned in earlier parts of this video, pretty rare. So Starkey's a great one to look at if you're thinking about a custom molded in-ear device. All right, so if you've made it this far, thanks for sticking with us. We've talked about a lot. We've talked about the over-the-counter category, some of the brands that stand out to us there, and then we've talked about all of the leading manufacturers in the prescription category. You can get more information on all of these brands at our YouTube channel, but you can also head over to soundly.com, compare any of these side by side, spend time looking at their features and more of our thoughts on each individual product. And if you get to the point where you just need a little help thinking through the pros and cons of each of these different models, or even the pros and cons of OTC versus prescription, you can text or call us at any time at 1-833-SOUNDLY. Talking to folks about all of this amazing technology is one of our favorite parts of the job, and we look forward to being there for you. I hope this video has been helpful as you navigate the world of hearing aids in 2026, and good luck with your research.
Okay.
You just saw a really good, except for old people, you don't wear a Mark Zuckerberg t-shirt for old people. It's not a sign of respect. You wear a collared shirt. Other than that, excellent salesman.
Yeah, I mean, he actually talked about things that most of our group would not appreciate, not need, you know?
And made that clear. And he made
Can I
that
ask
clear.
a question before we go to all three of you or people who are using hearing aids? Have you worked with the adjustment of background noise so that you get rid of certain background noises and what that does to the sound quality of the things that you want to hear? Because I'm curious about what happens in that. So I think I know how AI is working with it. So we could go into how that actually functions, but I'm curious about users. What happens when they use it and they play with the background noise to get rid of, say, sound in a restaurant, the background sound, so you can hear conversations. What happens to the noise quality? When you go to a symphony orchestra concert, what do? Do you change the background noise, setting it there? If not, why not? If so, why?
No, you do. Actually, one of the programs that you can have is classical music, and you just, click it and you get the classical music. Uh, if you use that mode for a restaurant, it's going to be a problem. But if you're in a orchestra, I mean, you're listening to a concert, you want the classical music mode because that filters in all of the beautiful sounds of the various instruments.
What happens if you're playing in that organization? If you're, because I'm an amateur musician, I play in an orchestra or band or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Can I correct your mistakes?
Don't sit in front of the trumpet.
That's all.
That would be nice. Gee, I sound great.
I can do that.
The other thing is, I would encourage you to check out these sound, URLs for hearing aids. Hearing aid tracker is a especially good one because it has thousands of people participating in any particular topic. You can get a thread, which goes over a long period of time. So that, for example, if you're interested in Costco Jabra, as an example, there's a thread about that. People liking it, not liking it, having problems, suggestions. So, it's something that you really want to follow through. So any other questions?
George,
I
can
didn't get an
add-
answer to the question.
I need to
Sorry.
add one item about the one killing the background sound and so on. Not only does it kill the background, it kills the soft voice sitting next to me. So the whole thing is gone. The only one that I found was the Ella here, and it was the audiologist that pointed me to how to set that up. So I don't have that problem. I'm sorry, I tried. I looked for all of them. They say they do it. You have to try it. Then you find out whether it works or not.